All right, guys, welcome to another podcast, Canine Conversations. I don't need to introduce myself, I hope. If you've been tuning in for a while, thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for following me on social media. Thanks if you're a member of my site. I hope you are. And today I want to talk about something really important. It's the importance of dogs in our lives. And I think there's no better time to talk about this than right now with all the crazy stuff going on in the world and people being divided against people and all this stuff that really makes us sad. No matter what side of the equation on, you're sad, you're upset, you're angry, you're hurt, or all these things. And I think mental illness or depression, mental challenges, which we all have to a degree. I know I get really depressed and really down when I see these things going on. It really attacks all of us, from people who are just common people on the street, the guy who works at Starbucks or anything like that, including the military guy who's been in the service, who's fought for our country. Anybody can appreciate the challenge, the mental challenge that go along with just being alive, just living day to day. It is a challenge. I mean, I have incredible respect for people who went through wars and fought for our country, and who have had hard lives and have suffered abuse and addiction and stuff like that. I want to talk about, though, the benefit of having dogs in your life, and dogs have really given me such a great life that I can't tell you how grateful I am, because I talk about it every week and I talk about it in everything I do. I mean, I make my living out of training dogs and hanging out with my dogs and giving my dogs a great life and sharing that with you guys. So that's an insane blessing, right? And I know my friends who have dogs, like my friend Kevin has German Shepherds, and one of his dogs is getting really old now and has cancer and has all these issues. And the dedication he has to this dog is something that really keeps him going. His dedication to caring for the dog and make sure the dog is comfortable in his last days, weeks, months, or whatever he might have left, really gives him a purpose. And although it's frustrating, and yes, he's been sleeping on the floor with the dog, I can hear in his voice when I talk to him that love, that passion he's got for that dog. And there's so many people like that. My friends Andrea and Michael just rescued a beagle from a laboratory, and they were frustrated with the dog. They couldn't get the dog to walk right and go potty outside and all these different things. And I've been on the phone with them back and forth, and they had a breakthrough yesterday. They were so happy. The challenge proved to be so rewarding. And then my friend and his wife rescued a dog who was at a pet shop, a rescue pet shop, not a regular pet shop, but the shelter home pet shop that I always talk about. And they're loving this dog. They had some issues. The dog nipped at them and did these things and that things, but they worked through those behaviors, and now they've got this really, really great dog. And so I'll tell you a story. Like when I first got my dog, Silly, the rescue that I had, my first dog really as an adult, he had some challenges and stuff, but I loved this dog so much. I remember when I first got him, I asked my friend Mike, who knew a lot about dogs, I said, hey, do I have to really care for this dog a lot? I mean, what if I want to go on a date, or what if I want to go away for overnight, spend the night at a friend's house or a girlfriend's house or something like that? Can I just leave this dog with a bunch of food around? He goes, yeah, you can totally do that. Don't worry about it. Leave the dog, make sure the dog can go in and out the door, go potty, and you can leave the dog for a day or two. It's not a big deal. And it became such an interesting concept, because I'm the one who became so obsessed about my dogs that I would never leave them like that at all. And I completely changed. In other words, I looked at the dog and I was like, my God, how can anybody eat an animal? I mean, I went to the nth degree, and I became a vegetarian for 10 years, and it all became really, really crazy stuff. But what it did do, it really gave me this insight into this depth of love, this depth of compassion and understanding for a creature that really doesn't give you anything back, right? I mean, you love your husband or your wife, you love your child, but there's some kind of reciprocation there. Like your husband provides for you, your wife provides for you, you help each other, you're a team. But a dog, what do they really give us? What does a dog really give us? And the answer to that is everything, right? Why do we love dogs? Like, in other words, a person who doesn't love or understand that depth of love that we have for dogs can't understand that, right? They can't understand, why would you have this animal that you got to feed, and you've got to do this, and you've got to do that, and you've got to care for it and walk it and take it to the doctor, and it gets sick and it dies after 10, 15 years. And why would you do that? You can't take your vacations without all these different things. And that the concept to them of having a dog is as foreign as the concept of me or somebody like you guys of not having a dog. Like, I can't imagine my life without my dogs. I really, really can't. I can't do that. And the fact that they always want to be with you, whether you're in a good mood or a bad mood or a foul mood or a sad mood or whatever that mood is, they're going to be there with you, and they're going to make that mood their mood, right? They're going to absorb that, and they're going to transform that into making you feel better. In other words, there's never been, and I don't think there ever will be, a time where a dog makes my situation worse. In other words, if I'm in a really sad mood and I hang out with my dog, I never leave that situation being more sad. And if I'm angry and I hang out with my dog, I never leave that situation being more angry. And even if I get upset at my dog in training, which we do, we get frustrated and we say stupid things and we feel like, oh, we're frustrated and this and that, and we might leave it on the dog and say, why don't you understand that, and all these things. And it always ends up being better at the end, because you look at this animal, and I do believe they're angels that are somehow embodied in fur and paws, because they change your mood. They're able, and for anybody who has, if you have a therapy dog or a service dog or a PTSD dog or anything like that, you can kind of appreciate that. But a dog doesn't need to be that title to give you those benefits, right? That's the beautiful thing. I mean, just a dog is going to give you love, understanding, companionship, and all those things. And that's what we really need in rough times. We need somebody who understands us. Now, obviously, if that person can be a partner, a husband, a wife, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, or whatever, and it doesn't matter what it is, if it's a friend, a lover, or whatever, that's great, because you can have an understanding. But there is that risk of misunderstanding, right? In other words, you don't really want to have a misunderstanding with the person you love. You ideally want to agree on everything with them. Because when you have a conflict with them, although you do grow from conflict and discussion and disagreement, it's really not that much fun. Like when Janet and I disagree, which is rare, on things, it just makes me feel like, I got to change something. I got to, is she going to love me if we disagree? And I think we all think that that's all that inner child in us. And I'm not playing psychotherapist, psychobabble here, but we all have that insecurity where we feel that. But with a dog, it's all loving. Like, it's all understanding. Your dog just understands you. And I'm sure if you have a cat, it's the same ways, but we're not talking about cats here. We're talking about dogs. So the fact that they always want to be with you, that they always want to give you attention and affection and love and companionship and all those things makes them so valuable. So in a time like what we're dealing with now, between the riots and the COVID and the times changing, and no matter where you stand on this political spectrum, I'm sure you're frustrated. And it's my goal, really, to not bring political things into this channel, into these podcasts, into my posts, because I had a conversation with Janet this morning, and it was really kind of enlightening to me. And that was that when times are rough, and you want to deal with something, right? And you want to deal with your dog, and you look to my page, you should get exactly that. You should get what you came for. That's my job in this world, is to help you with your dogs. It doesn't matter where you stand politically. It doesn't matter where you are on the income level, what race you are, what religion you are, what gender you are, what sexual whatever it's called, if you're gay or straight or anything like that. None of that matters. I love all of you because of your love for dogs. And I have people from all over the world, from all different walks of life, religion, beliefs, and everything. And I value that you trust me for advice on dogs. I'm going to renew my commitment to you today that I want to be there for you with your trouble with your dogs, right? So I'm going to really do my best to avoid anything that might take away from that, because I'm not a political guy, I'm not a religious guy, I'm not a psychotherapist guy, I'm none of those things. I'm the dog guy, and that's what I want to be for you. So, dogs help us during these tough times, and like I said, they provide us this immense companionship. So if you're depressed and you just want to snuggle in your bed and lay down and watch, Netflix and eat bonbons, your dog is cool with that, right? Your dog will lay next to you, and even Dwayne, who's really super high drive, loves to just lay in bed with us. He just loves that. He loves it almost as much as he does chasing a bumper or retrieving. And Goofy's the same way, and Maya and Boz, Jimmy, of course. Jimmy never likes to get out of bed. But the other thing that dogs really do is that when we want to go out, when we want to kind of get some exercise, and sometimes they'll even kind of coerce us into it, they'll get us out of the house, because there's nothing better for feeling down, depression, sadness, overwhelming fears and stuff like that, than to move our bodies. And there's no better way to move your body than with a dog attached to a leash, right? So when you feel down and you just want to hunker down, and you just want to do nothing, and you just want to lay there, and you just want to kind of be sad, and you want to be low and do all these things, your dog's going to be there for you. And when you decide you want to go out and go for a walk and do whatever, your dog's going to be there for you. Your dog's not going to say, hey, I want another 15-minute nap. They're not going to do that. They're going to go there with you. They're going to go that extra mile with you. And getting out and moving and walking your dog and staying off your phone and staying off of social media and off of the news and off of all these things, and just hunkering down, putting your dog on a leash, snapping that, poop bag in your pocket, and a couple treats if you want to, and getting outside and breathing some fresh air is so huge. It's such a transformation in your life, and you can only have that really with a dog. The other part, and this is a really, really important component that people who have dogs understand, is just the act of petting a dog. Just the act of cuddling with your dog, petting them, feeling their fur, feeling the energy that comes out of them, sharing that love, releases the hormone of oxytocin, the feel-good hormone. And I swear to you, they've done studies on it that it releases that equal hormone in the dogs as it releases in us. So the dogs love it, and we love it. So it's the most mutually beneficial relationship, cross species that's ever existed in the history of mankind. There's no other animal like that exists like that. And we have the ability to have that. So that's a pretty big blessing. That's a pretty good way to think about how can you make your life better? Well, you can have a dog. And the care you give to this dog, the love you give to this dog, the compassion you give to this dog is all fed right back to you. Now, if you want to take it a step further, you can train your dog, right? You can train your dog to do tricks. You can train your dog to do agility. You can train your dog to do competitive obedience, hunting, dock diving, nose work, any of these things. And every one of those things is something that makes the dog's life and your life better, right? It pulls you together. And by pulling you together, it enhances your life. It makes you feel good, and it's something you're accomplishing with your dog. So they always say that to keep your neuroplasticity, I think they call it, to keep from getting senile, to keep from mental depression and all these things. What's the other one? Alzheimer's and all that. To keep learning things, and to learn things with your dog also keeps your dog's mind fresh. And sometimes we get like, well, okay, my dog knows this or knows that, or I don't want to do it. But even teaching a little something, which is why on my YouTube channel and my membership section, I'm always putting up something new you can do with your dog. And it's something that I'm doing with Goofy, and I've done it for 10 years, right? Goofy's over 10 years old, and I've been doing these things with him for so long. Maya's going to be 10 in October. I've been doing it with her since I got her, and I think that was when she was about 4 years old. So these are all things you can do, and it makes your life so much better, and it gives you this purpose and a sense of accomplishment, and it's a great thing to do. Your dogs will love it, you'll love it, and you'll enhance that relationship between you and your dog, and there's nothing better than that. So, we always see dogs, as therapy dogs or as PTSD dogs, and, dogs that go to hospitals and do these great, great, great things. And a lot of people want their dog to do that. And then, comes the issue of the fake service dogs and the fake therapy dogs and all that stuff. But what I really want to focus on here is that even if your dog isn't a trained therapy dog or a trained service dog or a trained PTSD dog, your dog still has that skill to help you with those tasks, right? With those challenges in your life. And how great is that? Like, how great is it that a dog really without any training can make you feel better? So if you have depression, the dog can help you with the depression. If you have stress or PTSD, post-traumatic stress, the dog can help you with that. Most every dog, just in their DNA, has the ability to help you to feel better. And you don't need to have the dog trained as a service dog or therapy dog or all these things, because it's in their DNA to make you feel better. So that's one of the reasons why I'm against people having fake service dogs, because most of the time you don't really need it. You just need a dog to be a dog, and you need to be a human. And that cohesive bond, that bond that doesn't exist between any other two species, is there for you. And if you just look down at your feet, like I'm looking down, Maya's right there, I got Goofy back here, and Dwayne's over there. Boz is in front of me. Jimmy's probably under my desk somewhere. Maybe he's up with his mom. Anytime I want, I can just reach down and I can pet that dog, and I can hug him. I can kiss him. I can tell him how much I love him. And without saying a word back to me, without uttering a single word back to me, that dog is going to tell me he loves me. And that's going to make it all right. That's going to make my life better. It's going to make me happier. It's going to make me live longer. It's going to make me live a better, more fulfilled life. And when you hit those stressors, when you get depressed and sad and frustrated, grab your dog and just hug your dog. No matter what you're frustrated about, just stop. Take a breath, grab your dog, hug your dog, love your dog. Hug and kiss your wife too, or your husband, whatever it is, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. But give your dog that hug, because even if you feel misunderstood by your husband and wife, your dog's still there, right? And that's the greatest feeling in the world. And I want to share that with you. I want to renew my commitment to you that I'm the dog guy for you, that no matter where you are on anything politically or religiously or ethically, or unless you're hurting dogs, I can't stand you, but any of those things, I'm here for you. And I hope that makes your life a little bit better today. I hope that takes some of the stress off. And like I say, be sure to check out my training section at robertcabral.com, my online training forum, my membership section, and also check out my YouTube channel, of course. I hope you love my podcast. If you do, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. If you're not already, I think you have to be. But no matter if you're seeing this on YouTube, then you can also get it on what is it, on Spotify. I think I'm on all of them. I think I'm on every one. I know for sure it's on Apple and Google. So leave a comment, share the love, and I really, really do appreciate that. So I'm going to give you guys some questions and answers today. And let's get those going right now. The first one goes out to David Panetta, who says, your technique is great in rural areas where you and your viewers live, but I want to point out the issues that most of us have with a leash longer than 6 feet. The dog will be in the street or on other people's property. Another issue is that many dogs will eat garbage on or along the walkways. Could you address these issues, please? And that is a great question, David, and I'm sorry I haven't addressed it before, but you can use a shorter leash to do the training. And in particular, if you're going to be living in a city, in a very urban type area, I totally understand the difference. And I've had my dogs in urban areas, and it is a lot harder. So you'll need to work with that shorter leash, and obviously you can still do that. But maybe the best thing to do in the beginning is get your dog nearer to a park, or get into an area of town where it's not as busy, a parking lot, a driveway or something, where you can start to work these things. And again, use a system of reward and consequence where the dog will succeed and learn, right? So it's not about failing, it's about succeeding and learning, and that will make it a little bit easier. But it doesn't really break it down that much differently. The techniques are all the same. You're just going to use less space. And that's like people say, well, you don't teach anything with small dogs. Well, you just got to bend down more to give them the reward. But it's a great question, and I hope my answer point helped you with that, David. So I'm sorry if I didn't address it directly before. I hope that helps. And if it doesn't, please send me another message, and I'll try to maybe make a video, but I need to go into some kind of an urban area that I'm not really near that much. Maria says, thank you for your podcast and videos, and you're quite welcome. I always focus on your advices. Thank you. I have one question it would be great if you could answer, and here we go. My 10-month-old male puppy attacks some male dogs. The problem is that those dogs are off leash and not under control. They are not aggressive, but they come very close to my dog, and I cannot redirect his behavior. It's very difficult to correct him. My dog is on leash, and I daily teach him obedience, but in these situations, he doesn't listen to me on what is the right thing to do. So that is a great question. And the problem with it is, this is not your fault. So you're trying to train your dog to engage to you, and these dogs come up and play. And obviously that's a lot more interesting to your dog than you. So a couple of things. One is, if there's any way you can keep your dog away from other dogs during that learning phase, because you don't want it to be consequential. In other words, you don't want looking at you or paying attention to you to be adversarial to your dog when another dog comes by, where you then have to kind of correct the dog and yell at him, yank at him, and do all these things, because it's not going to happen, right? You try your best not to have other dogs around when you're trying to do the initial part of training, especially with your 10-month-old puppy, but you're going to want to try to get that training in away from other dogs so that you don't have this issue. Now, once there are other dogs around, I mean, if you know they're friendly and they're just going to play and you're at a park, then obviously the best thing to do is usually always going to be to drop the leash and then run backwards and call your dog to you. That's the only thing that you can really do, because hanging onto that leash is going to make the dog more reactive to other dogs, and that's where your problems are going to stem, because especially if the dog gets bit while he feels the tension on the leash, he can't defend himself. It's going to be a whole different host of problems. Rosen Stanislavov says, I've watched your channel for a while now, and I have to say I really enjoy your tips. Thank you, Rosen. As for your separation anxiety video, I have a question. Our beagle is coming up to 3 years, and now we have had her since a pup. At night, she sleeps downstairs in our dining room, and she is fine throughout the whole night. However, if we go out, that's when separation anxiety happens. Why is she okay at night on her own, but not during the day? And I'll tell you, usually the reason for that is because she's sensing something is different. Right? She sees the routine of you going upstairs and then you coming right back down, maybe whether it's a minute later, an hour later, or 8 hours later, she still knows you're in the house. So something is setting her up where she is cueing that when you go out that door, that you're out of the house. So you're going to have to kind of retrain her a bit and let her see that when you go out, you come back in, you don't really stay gone that long, and watch your behaviors, because once these kind of habits sink into the dog's head, they start to watch for patterns. They start to, and you're gonna really have this in you, where you're gonna worry about her separation anxiety, and then you're gonna worry, is she gonna be okay? And that energy, that's really what dogs read. They read energy and body language. You're doing something different, so you're gonna have to figure out how you're going upstairs and making that so nonchalant. And maybe what you need to do is kind of go out at night or go upstairs during the day. Change the pattern up. Separation anxiety, until it becomes really hardwired, is something that is kind of symptomatic of things going on, of your behaviors during certain movements that's going on there. So it's not going to be easy, but it's something you should work on. Lucy, and I'm not going to say your last name because you're about to say something here that I think will maybe cause some conflict. The RSPCA, Animal Welfare UK and Australia, do not support the use of these collars. If you use a harness, head harness, if needs be, and training to get a dog to walk by your side, they should be able to walk on a flat collar without hurting themselves. Well, Lucy, this is where the RSPCA is wrong. Because unless you will say that any dog that cannot function with, and by the way, head harnesses are more dangerous, in my opinion, to dogs than a choke chain, slip chain, chuck chain, check chain, prong collar, or anything, because they do move the dog around by the front of the head, which can cause cervical issues, but that's never addressed because for some reason, I think it was a veterinarian who maybe developed the head harness, which I don't like personally at all. But just because an organization doesn't support something doesn't mean it's wrong. It usually means that these organizations don't have the experience in dealing with the difficult dogs that trainers who train those dogs have, and therefore they're naive to it. They don't understand it. They haven't worked with it as well. And perhaps they've just seen the worst use of that tool that could be. Now, I've seen flat collars grown into a dog's neck that were never, the dog was abused. It grew into, they had to be surgically removed. That's very abusive. I've seen dogs helicoptered by flat collars. I've seen dogs, abused with flat collars. But that doesn't make the tool wrong. It makes the use of that tool wrong. And I would hope someday that these organizations could, but they usually won't, get their heads out of their butts and see that this is one way to save a lot of dogs. And I can tell you honestly that most humane organizations, such as humane societies, and SPCAs, Societies for the Prevention of Cruelty of Animals, and they're all private organizations, right? Maybe the Royal RSPCA in your territory is government run, I don't know. But most of them are private organizations, and they are very select on the dogs they take in. And if dogs have severe behavioral issues, they either don't take them in or take them in and euthanize them. So that's why I really advocate strongly for the use of corrective tools, because they can help save the animal's life. JK says, my dog is fine inside and in our backyard, but once we go out for walks or a park, all obedience is out the door. We've been going on walks for 2 months now. Just started taking him to a nearby park. How can I get him to focus on me in either scenarios? He will sometimes listen on walks, but at the park I do not exist. And that, my friend, is because you are not as interesting as the park, right? You're not as fun as the park. And most importantly, you are not able to overshadow the dog's desire to play at the park and make him play with you, right? So what my goal with that is I try to be very animated. I try to be very fun for the dog. I try to give the dog what the dog needs, which is structure and fun, relaxation, playtime. But if the dog is going to tune me out at the park, then I'm going to have to get stronger on the dog and make sure the dog knows that they must listen to me. And the reason they must listen to me is because it is really a life or death thing. The dog must know that if he doesn't listen to me, that there are consequences. And the reason you must be okay with putting those consequences on the dog is if the dog is at the park and the dog doesn't listen and the dog runs away and runs in the street or runs up to a vicious dog or anything like that, the dog's life is at risk. And if you're not willing to own that and take that in your hand and really make that happen or fix that, then you're going to be responsible for that. Now, if it happens, and you did try to fix it, you worked on it, whatever, and it happened, you've done your best. But it's kind of like seeing somebody choking and not trying to do the Heimlich maneuver. It's a dangerous thing for dogs not to pay attention to people, and it's a very dangerous thing for a dog to think they don't have to listen or to think that they have the option not to listen. So be a little bit more stern, get your dog to focus, and once they focus, then let them have fun. Samantha says, what do you do if the puppy doesn't auto-default sit? She's about 17 weeks old, and her breeder taught her to sit by default. I'm having issues getting her to stand. When I have a treat, she just flops into a sit. Any suggestions? I did become a paid member, but not sure how to access it on YouTube for material. Okay, so if you have any problems with the membership section, there's a help page and there's a contact form where Alan, who works for me, will get to you. He's amazing with technical support, and I hope to have him with me for a long time because he really does help solve your problems in tech support, because I just don't have the time to do it. Although sometimes I might peek in there and give you a hand too. But as far as the auto default, that's where I can help you and Alan can't. So the reason the dog does the default is because, first of all, she's only 17 weeks old. This is super easy to fix. What you're going to do is, if you're trying to teach the dog stand, which is what you're working on, what you're going to do is you put the dog on a table and you're going to prop the dog's little tummy up and put the dog in a stand and feed the dog, feed the dog, feed the dog. And when the dog sits, you're going to take the treat away. Then you're going to pop the dog's belly up, and when he's standing, you're going to feed him, feed him, feed him, and make it the happiest time on the planet. Yeah, good girl, good boy, good girl, yours is a girl. Good girl, good girl, good girl. Get the dog to see how happy you are, how pleased you are with that, and the dog will start to do it. Just stay really steady. Don't do anything with a sit for a while, and you'll fix this problem without any problems at all. Iman says, hi, Robert, I have a 7-month-old golden retriever that has a problem. I got her 8 weeks old, and she guarded her food and growled when we got close to her. But now she's better with food. Now she's guarding her toys. If she gets anything from the yard and we can't put a collar on her, okay, there's a little language thing, but I'm trying to work through this. Last week, my 22-year-old daughter tried to put a harness on her. She growled and bit her, so she stopped. When I tried to take it off, she bit me hard. I thought of getting rid of her because I'm expecting her grandchild in September and I'm scared. She's going to be aggressive with him. She goes to daycare once or 2 times a week, and she's so good there. Everyone loves her. Please advise me what to do because she's brought a lot of happiness to our family, but I'm really scared for now. So she's a 7-month-old golden retriever. There's nothing to be that scared of for you. Now, of course, babies is always another issue. But I would tell you that the reason she's probably good with the people at daycare is because they're more nonchalant about it, right? So if I see a dog that has something, I'm just going to grab it. I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. Your daughter, I don't know why you're putting a harness on a dog. That's a really bad thing, especially a golden retriever. We would have no reason to ever have a harness on. You should have her on you should just put her on a slip lead. If she has something, put her on a slip lead. I always say to move a dog away from what they have and try not to move the object away. So in the beginning, we want to hand feed. We want to have 2 toys. We want to have 2 treats, 2 Kongs, 2 balls, whatever it is. We want to have 2, and we want to do a trade with the dog. But the dog at some point must learn to surrender an object for us, because if the dog has something poisonous or dangerous or something like that, we can't go trying to get some. So let's say your dog is chewing on a piece of glass. You can't go try to find something else to trade the dog for that. The dog must listen to you. And the hard part is when a young puppy bites and we pull away and we kind of make a big deal out of it. The dog learns that bite had significance, and they start to give power to that behavior. Early on, puppies generally learn from their litter mates or from their moms or from the puppy raisers that it doesn't get a response. It's not acceptable to do that. They get in trouble for doing it from the mom or from the siblings or from the puppy raiser. And then they don't continue the behavior. And if you don't do that, if you can't do that with the dog, you create a monster. So my thing would be, maybe talk to a trainer in person who can kind of work you through some of those things. It's not hard to do, especially with a golden retriever, especially at 7 months old. But don't give up on the dog just yet. Use some solid structure, use some good obedience with the dog. Teach the dog a solid leave it command and a solid out command. And I've got videos on that as well, and that should really help you. I hope it does. Jeremy. I don't know if it's Jeremy and you got cut off or if it's really Jeremy, but I think it's Jeremy. I think it is. I really do. Robert, my dog, loves to play ball, but sometimes he often bites or chews the tip of the rope rather than the ball. Can you give me any tips to stop that from happening? More than likely, it's going to happen with a younger dog. So if you have a ball on a string, the dog will grab the string and then start flipping the ball around and whacking themselves in the face with it. And for some reason, that gives the dog some kind of a crazy sense of self-satisfaction. So what you can do is you can obviously play ball with them with a ball that doesn't have a string on it, because that would be a big help. But what I would start to do more than that is I would have the ball and I would have the string, and I would feed the ball to the dog. I would let play, and then when he bites the ball, I would play tug with him. Right? I would make sure to play tug with him, and if he gets the string, I would grab his collar, I would get him to out it, and then right away let him bite the ball again. And while he has the ball, pull on the string to give him some of that satisfaction that he's getting by whacking himself in the head with it, but he's going to get that satisfaction by engaging in a game of tug with you. And I think that's a really good way to solve that, because I've done that, by the way. Kyle, my last question. What's your opinion on e-collars? My Husky German Shepherd mix seems to not be as motivated to train anymore. I understand using it for obedience, like not having her go after our chickens or the cat, but our trainer used it to teach her how to sit lie down, place, etc. Well, I mean, I think e-collar is a fantastic tool. In fact, I just recently released the first in the series of my e-collar videos, and I will be releasing more. So used properly, I think the e-collar is the most humane tool that is available because it enhances the relationship between dog and person, human, and doesn't destroy it, because any corrections we give a dog, and we must give dogs corrections. There is no way anyone will ever convince me that we do not need to correct dogs. Maybe some dogs are very compliant, but all dogs need corrections, and therefore we give dogs corrections. The e-collar removes that tactile physical connection between you and the dog when that correction happens, and it makes it a lot easier on the dog psychologically if it's taught in a fair and humane manner. That's it. End of that. Remember that e-collar is very similar to a TENS unit that we put on our body. And if, 100 years ago, somebody would have said, we're going to hook you up to electricity and we're going to shock you and it's going to make your muscles feel better, people would have probably thought you're nuts. But it worked, and it continues to work, and it works on the e-collar. So anyway, that's our podcast. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on all social media if you can, if you don't already, I should say. And please check out my membership section at robertcabral.com. Updated all the time, tons of lessons, more lessons than you can shake a dog's paw at. And it's there to make your life with your dog better, to help you better understand your dog and better understand the training that you and your dog are going to have, and it's going to make the best relationship possible. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next podcast.